Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Ino ran away from home and started living with Naruto? Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. That was all Ino Yamanaka could see, while she ran through the dark streets of Konoha. The fight with her parents had been a really bad one, and in her outburst of feelings the blonde girl had taken the most important of her stuff, thrown it into a bag, and then she had been off into the night in the pouring rain. She was convinced that nobody would see her now. Not at this unholy hour, but still she was happy that even if someone saw her, the person wouldn't be able to tell that she was crying. Everyone would believe that it was the rain on her face, because she was a kunoichi and those did not show any weakness and sure as hell did not cry. Ino had no intention to stop running. All that was in her mind was to get away from her parents. She did not care about being drenched or the pain that started to grow throughout her whole body. Just run, Ino. Run as far as you can, she thought to herself, repeating it like a mantra every few seconds. The straps of her bag began to cut into her shoulder, after the rain had gone through the bag and all of its contents and multiplied the weight. Slowly a small voice in her head began to show itself as if her mind was trying to gain the control over her raging emotions. But where are you going to run, huh? The small voice asked, getting louder every time Ino repeated her mantra. At some point the flower girl had to answer it. I don't know, she replied, and just like that stopped her run. The streets were muddy and her legs were sprinkled with dirt. Her skin felt cold and the tears still didn't stop. God, she was a mess. Worse even, she was a lonely mess with nowhere to go. Although it would have been easy to find a place to crash for a few nights at Sakura's home or the ones of her teammates, Ino also knew that her parents would search for her there first. Her problem was that she didn't have any other real friends. Sure, she knew a lot of people, but never befriended them enough to call any of them friends. Shino was way too creepy for Ino with all his bugs and his unsocial behavior, so she kept talking to him at a minimum. It was the same with Neji. They were great ninjas and Ino loved to work with them, but socially they weren't what she needed. Staying with Kiba was also a dead end, because the boy couldn't stand her anymore after she had shot down his attempts to date her in a very cruel way. She continued to stand in the street, closing her eyes and trying to solve her problem. She needed a place to stay, where no one expected or would search for her. Friends and hotels had to be ruled out. The other people she could ask, like Hinata, Lee and Tenten, sure were kind enough to let her stay the night, but she barely knew Hinata or Tenten, so it would have been very awkward to ask them. Lee was also ruled out, because of being too strange for Ino's taste, despite him being one of the nicest guys she knew. Again her train of thought went to where she had started. The girl didn't know how long she had been just standing in the middle of the street. The rain still fell without mercy. The sobs and tears had stopped as Ino had begun to analyze her problem. The bag had fallen from her shoulder and lay now in the dirty street. Ino just knelt down next to it. She didn't care about anything anymore. There was no answer for her problem. At least she couldn't find it. She couldn't just go to somebody she barely knew, she couldn't go to her friends, she couldn't even go into a hotel. And certainly she wouldn't go back to her parents. Even the thought of that brought her nearly to tears. What they had said was just too cruel. No matter why they had said something like that, her anger and some other emotions did rise to the surface again. Despite desperation because she had nowhere to stay, sitting in the muddy street while rain poured down, Ino swore to herself that she would never go live with her parents again. They were wrong. Ino whispered to herself. I'll prove them wrong and then they'll see that they should have never underestimated me. You know, it's kinda hard not to underestimate someone who sits in the mud and talks to herself. a voice said behind her. Ino grabbed one of the kunai out of her pouch, jumped facing the threat before anyone normal could have noticed. As she saw who had spoken, she relaxed. He was no threat. Not even a small one in her eyes. What do you want, Uzumaki? She asked in an aggressive tone. Why did it have to be him to find her in this situation? Of all people, it just had to be the one person that she could get along with the least. Nothing, Yamanaka. I'm just enjoying the rain, he told her without any hint of mischief in his voice. It's really nice, isn't it? It's cool, relaxing, and you never meet anyone when it's raining. Well, almost never. It's probably because it's night and nobody wants to get wet. Besides crazy people like you. Ino told him. Something about Naruto got her on the edge every time she saw him. She thought that it was the fact that he never acted serious and made stupid jokes that hindered him in becoming a great ninja. She hated people who sold themselves for less than they were worth. A small smile graced Naruto's lips. He was as drenched as Ino, but wasn't shivering. Also, he had no mud on him at all. A little bit of curiosity was seen in his eyes. So I'm here because I'm crazy. What's your excuse? His voice was relaxed, as if her comments didn't even bother him at all. It was unlike him. Normally, when people would insult Naruto, he would point at them and make quite the scene. Now he was quiet, relaxed, and didn't even show a sign that he had heard her. Was it because no one else was around? Ino didn't know, and it didn't matter anyways. She mumbled her answer, hoping he would just leave her alone. She didn't need someone other than her parents bother her tonight. Got into a fight. Parents. Ran away. No place to stay. The other words were too silent to be heard at all. Naruto's smile grew bigger. Ino turned her head to the side. Now it would start. He would laugh at her and would make fun of her, to get her back for all the times she did the same thing when he was in such an embarrassing situation. A small part of her mind even thought that she deserved it. So where's the problem? You can stay at my place. Naruto told her with a big grin and a happy voice. In her surprise, she stared at him. What had he just said? She could stay with him. No jokes. No remarks. Just an invitation to stay over. Her face must have shown her big surprise because of his next words. What's wrong, Ino? Come on. The rain has stopped, so there's no reason to stay outside anymore. He took a few steps towards her and then grabbed her bag, throwing it over his shoulder. Ino was still unsure but followed him as he led the way to his home. This is no trick. You're not leading me on? She asked, knowing how rude it was. But she had to make sure. Naruto turned around and faced her, staring in her eyes. No trick. Just a friend helping a friend, he told her with this unusual serious voice. His words were another surprise for Ino. You consider me a friend? She asked him. But we fight all the time and never get along. At least if we're not on missions. He just laughed, turned around and started to walk again. Then he told her something she would think about for the next month, though she didn't know it yet. You're right, we fight. We get on each other's nerves and always embarrass each other, but you're still my friend, he said. You never say something hurtful or something that is not true about me. It's not the usual friendship, but to me it is a friendship nonetheless. After that he was silent and so was she. They just walked to his apartment in silence and dealt with what was on each of their minds. Ino tried to understand why Naruto would let her stay. She for her part had never been very nice to him. Always pointing out his flaws and telling him how stupid his pranks were. Nevertheless, she had never spread rumors about him like a lot of the other kids had. They just never got along, because Ino had somehow felt that Naruto never tried his best. Like he was holding back. When he had fought in the Chunin exams, she had seen that he wasn't the dead last. Also, she had heard that it was him who had beaten Gaara of the Sand and had convinced Tsunade-sama to come to the village. He had potential to be just as good as Sasuke, if not better, of that Ino was sure. She just didn't get Naruto, and to be honest, in the end she did not care one bit why he was nice to her. She had a place to stay and he even carried her things for her. Why not enjoy such a nice gesture? Naruto meant no harm to her. When they came to his place, he opened the door and showed her to bathroom. He gave her a bright orange towel and said that he would make some ramen for them. She didn't complain. She closed the bathroom door, stripped her wet clothes down and got under the shower to warm herself up. Other problems could wait, couldn't they? Naruto, after he had given Ino the towels, had changed into dry clothes. He wasn't afraid of a cold. After all, he never got one thanks to his secret friend. Now he stood in his kitchen boiling water for 2 ramen cups. He heard the shower running in the bathroom and wondered how it had come to the fact that Ino Yamanaka was using his shower. When the rain had started and everyone else had gotten into their homes, Naruto had decided to take a walk through the village. Rain had always been his friend, because it was the reason why the streets were empty. That meant no hateful glares, no one accidentally bumping into him, and no whispered curses about the demon child. Just him, the street, and the platter of raindrops. He enjoyed walking the village in the rain. It was lonely, but loneliness was better than the silent boiling hate he always felt from the village. Well, not the whole village anymore. People like Iruka, Tsuki, Ayame, Enko and most of the higher shinobi were quite fond of him nowadays. It had something to do with him beating Gaara and finding Tsunade, Naruto suspected. All the other shinobi didn't really care about him as far as he knew. Not that they had been the problem in first place. It was the villagers who despised or feared him the most. They had never beaten him if you didn't mind some drunken idiots, but Naruto always felt their hatred. It was worse than any beating, because he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't just fight back and hit them for the glares and whispers. Not even for telling their kids to avoid him. He just had to endure everything they did. That was why he praised the rain and the peace it gave him. Loneliness was his friend sometimes, though he was never really alone. The damn fourth had made sure of that. With a scowl, he poured the boiling water in the cups. He nearly burned his hands again. That happened quite often these days. They were always shaking for some reason. Maybe suppressed anger was the reason, maybe the exhaustion from his training. He couldn't care less about it. What he did care about was why he had found Ino kneeling in the muddy road, legs all dirty, clothes drenched, eyes puffy red. He had noticed it right away. Never ever had he seen the girl like that. She always cared about her looks, and it was a bad sign if she didn't. When he heard her mutter to herself how she would show someone they were wrong, Naruto knew that she had had a fight with someone. The person had hurt her bad, even he saw that back then. So he did the only thing he could think of, giving her a place to hide, to recover from the pain. He wasn't close to her, but she was Sakura's friend after all. Also, she was always fun to argue with. He liked the strong, bossy and loud Ino, because she meant a challenge for his mind. To verbally fight with her was a funny way to kill time and distracted him from other things. Sure, she had never seen through the facade of his grins and false laughter, but why should she? They only talked for a few minutes most of the times. Mostly it ended with her whacking his head, telling him to shut up. The girl in the street was nothing of the strong friend he knew. She was lost, hurt and had nowhere to go. Only a glimpse of the determination of the normal Ino had been left in her. Naruto knew how she felt, because he had felt the same many times. What she needed was the help of a friend. The surprised look on her face had been a bonus for him. She had followed him to his house without another word, and Naruto was sure that she had been lost in her thoughts. Now he had one of the prettiest girls in his house, using his shower. He couldn't help the small blush on his face. The first girl to ever visit him. Well, besides Hinata, but the blue-haired girl was a special case after all. Furthermore, unlike Hinata, Ino would stay the night with him or even a few nights. That made her staying here special. The sound of the shower stopped just as he set two bowls on the table. He preferred to eat from the bowls instead of the cup. It just made the whole experience of eating ramen nicer. When he heard the bathroom door open, he lifted his head in its direction. Ino had only opened it a little, so he couldn't see her but hear her voice. Naruto. He heard her ask, pretty shyly. Could you do me another favor? Sure, Ino. What do you need? He asked. She was his guest and Naruto would do everything to make her comfortable. Well, you see. Ino began. I don't have any dry clothes. All the things in my bag are wet. I know you don't have any clothes for girls, but could you lend me some of yours? The blush could be heard in her voice. Maybe there was also a bit of shame for being in this situation. Naruto's smile grew. If that was her only problem, it was easily fixed. Sure, wait for a moment, he told her. Then Naruto went into the bedroom, took some of the things out of his dresser and went to the bathroom. Now came the awkward part. Ino, I've got the things here. I'll close my eyes so you can get them from me, okay? His face was really hot. If Sakura had been in Ino's place, he was sure she would have beaten him into next week. For his luck, Ino was too exhausted from the events of the night to even care. Okay. Close your eyes, I will get the things, the blonde girl said. And thanks again for being so kind. Closing his eyes, he waited. The next thing he felt was the small breeze of hot air coming from within the bathroom and then someone tugging the clothes out of his hands. After that, he heard the bathroom door close. I'll be waiting in the kitchen for you, he said through the door. We can discuss the sleeping arrangement while we eat there if you want. Or we just eat and talk afterwards. It's up to you. Without waiting for an answer, he got back into the kitchen and sat down into one of the two chairs. There he waited for her. After a few minutes, Ino came into the kitchen. When he saw her, his breath got stuck in his throat. She was wearing a small pair of his boxers, which showed a lot of her long legs. The shirt that was a little big for her went just over her behind, drawing his attention to it. Her wet hair dangled over her shoulder, freed from its normal ponytail, giving it a messy but also look. To his luck, she was still drying her face and didn't see his stare before he turned his eyes away. Naruto was convinced that the girl would have whacked him if she had seen. He himself would have done the same. Ino came over to the kitchen table and sat down on the opposite side from him. She looked into his face. A small smile was seen around her lips. He had to admit, this girl was indeed Sakura-chan's worst rival when it came to being beautiful. Thank you for treating me like this. I don't know what would have been if you hadn't shown up at the street, she told him. Naruto took his hand behind his head, rubbing his hair. Don't mind it, Ino. I just did what anyone would have done. Come on, let's eat. I am starving and I'm sure you're too. After that, you can get my bed and I'll take my sleeping bag and the couch, he said. And don't worry, you can stay here as long as you want. Thank you. You're really kind to me. I don't know how to repay you, she told him as she took her chopsticks. Just show your parents that whatever they said to hurt you isn't true. Naruto said. I don't know what they said and I don't care, but I want none of my friends being hurt by anyone. Her reply was another small smile. The blonde boy liked that smile. There was something in it that he just had to see, though he didn't know what it was. Anyway, as long as he could help Ino, he was content. His friends were dear to him. After all, they were all he had. Even the ones that weren't that close to him. He would do what he could for the blonde girl. But for now he would just eat his ramen. Other problems could wait, couldn't they? After their small dinner they had said goodnight to each other, and while Naruto had taken the couch, Ino got the bed. In the dark bedroom, Ino laid on her back, staring at the ceiling above her, and was unable to sleep. Despite everything that happened and her exhaustion, her mind was still processing what happened. Naruto, the dead last, the loud idiot, a person she thought of as just annoying, had found her in the middle of the night in the street, given her a place to stay, and told her that he considered her a friend. Plus, he had encouraged her to prove her parents wrong. They didn't even really know each other, and yet the boy had given her his bed and slept on the couch instead. Worst of all, he had been serious all the time and not the goof she knew. And that was what was bothering at the moment. Sure, she had heard from Sakura Forehead that Naruto seemed to have another personality when it came to fighting other ninja, but had never believed the girl. Naruto and serious, that just couldn't fit. On top of her own experience, Ino had heard how it was Naruto who had beaten Gaara of the Sand, and there was a rumor about him being the one responsible for Lady Tsunade's return, which were both quite impressive feats. It bothered her a lot that she had not seen this side of Naruto. She was Yamanaka Ino after all, which meant that her ability to know people's personality at first sight was unmatched, except for the one of her parents. Was there really more to Naruto than she had seen? Well, right now it seemed like she couldn't find the answer to that special question, so Ino decided that it was time to sleep. Closing her eyes, she turned to her side and took a deep breath. The air in the room, the sheets, and even the clothes on her body, all had a different smell on them, she noticed. The room smelled like ramen, probably because of their dinner. The clothes smelled like they had been freshly washed and had a hint of vanilla on them. The sheets, however, had the most interesting smell. Here Ino could smell not only the vanilla scent but also that of a training field. The faint smell of grass and trees and something musky. Like Naruto had come home after training and just slept without changing clothes or showering. Seeing that it was Naruto she thought about, the blonde girl was sure that this was just the reason the sheets smelled like this. But she couldn't really complain. It kind of smelled nice. Absolutely different from her room at her parents' house. With a small content sigh, the teen snuggled into her comfortable pillow, and a few seconds later sleep came over her. Sadly, it lasted only for a few hours. At 4 in the morning she woke up. The green glowing letters of Naruto's alarm clock gave a little light. What had her waking up at such an hour? Normally Ino was someone who loved to sleep in. Her answer came with the sound of a moan. It came from the living room, and therefore it had to be the blonde owner of this place. With a little yawn, Ino got out of bed, and on her bare feet she sneaked through the room into the small hall of the apartment. She heard her fellow genin mumbling. What the hell is he doing? She thought. Curious now, she peeked her head through the small door and saw him sprawled over the couch in a way only Naruto could sleep. The small TV was still on and illuminated the room, but the sound was muted. Ino could see Naruto's eyes moving under his closed lids. The boy was dreaming and speaking in his sleep. Given the sounds that came from his direction, she was sure that the boy had a nightmare. He was panting heavy and thrashing around. Just as Ino decided to wake the poor boy, she heard something that shocked her to no end. Naruto was begging in his dreams, pure desperation, fear and hurt in his voice. Why? Please tell me. Why did you do it? Just a small whimper. In the dim light of the TV, Ino could watch how small droplets of water came out of closed lids. How was that even possible? No, please. I didn't do anything. Ino was in the room before she could think about what she was doing. She couldn't watch this anymore, and not waking him up would be nothing short of torture. But just as she reached the couch, the blonde girl heard the words that would change her view of Naruto completely. Mom, Dad, don't leave me alone with the fox. Please help me. Shocked Ino grabbed the boy's shoulder and shook him awake. He jerked into a sitting position, grabbed a kunai that had been hidden somewhere and brought it to Ino's throat. Shivering, the blue-eyed female watched his face, an expression of a cornered animal. Then he took the kunai from her throat and relaxed. Sorry, bad dream, he said to her, staring at his hands. Did I wake you up? Was it guilt in his voice? Shame? Maybe both. She couldn't tell. Still in shock, Ino could just nod. It wasn't the kunai or the fact that she didn't know what to say, but these last words he had screamed in his dreams. So helpless, as if he had always been alone. Please don't tell anybody. The only person who knows about this dreams is Aruka-sensei. The blonde boy told her, embarrassment clearly visible on his face. I don't want anybody else to see me like this, weak. I am a ninja, not a stupid kid. Her ninja training jumped into function and the shock and fear went away to let her think again. She realized the boy in front of her shivering like a leaf in the wind. He was afraid of her, because she had seen him like this and didn't know what she would do now. Ino was ashamed of herself. She had a little fight with her parents and had run away from home because of it. Even worse, she had almost given up an hour after she had been alone, while Naruto had been alone all his life. She had said so much bad things about him, because he never had been as good as others. Now she understood why. He never had anyone to help him. Always had so much to learn all by himself. Ino thought about what would have become of her if she would never have gotten any advice from her parents. She can't even imagine it. Even Sasuke-kun had it better than Naruto. Not that he had it easy, but still he had a family to help him grow. And unlike Sasuke, who wallowed in his self-pity, Naruto was there for others, although in his very annoying way. Ino, life is not always easy. We all come to a point where we need the help of others. Promise me that when you meet somebody who needs help, you will be the one to help that person. The words her mother had said to her at some point now came back. It was exactly one of the situations the older Yamanaka had meant. As she was thinking about this, Ino decided that she would listen to the words of her mother in this case, no matter how much she hated her at the moment. Determined, she grabbed Naruto's hand and forced him to look at her. The pleading look was still on his face. I promise not to tell a soul, she said. His face lit up in a way that could only be named as easement. He wasn't smiling or grinning at her. In fact, he was shivering like a leaf in the wind, but hey, it was something. He turned his attention to their hands and rubbed his thumb over her hand. Thank you. Not more than a whisper, but Ino heard it anyway. She hadn't expected him to thank her for it. Confused, she forced him to make a little room on the couch and sat down next to him, still holding his hand in hers. She figured that if he didn't like the contact, he would have let go of it by now. This boy was special, so much Ino could tell by now. Had he ever had someone to hold him when he had been afraid as a kid? Probably not. She couldn't imagine to be him. To be honest, she didn't want to, but right now she could at least make up for some of the things she had said to him in the past. So she took hold of his arm, which wasn't that easy because of them still holding hands. After that, she leaned her head onto his shoulder and watched the muted TV. Is it hard? She asked him. Normally she would have expected him to ask what she meant, but right now the direction of her question was evident. Ino heard a sigh coming from his lips. Sometimes. You get used to being alone. It's not as bad for me. After all, I've never know something else. He explained to her, and his head gently fell against her own. What a nice feel that was. Just sitting there, enjoying someone who at least for the moment cared about you, despite him having his own shit to deal with. Did you mean it when you said I could stay here as long as I wanted? Sure. If you have no problem with me having these dreams from time to time. His answer was quite funny. He was the one providing shelter and asked her if she was okay with it. What a good, but silly guy. I don't. In fact, Uzumaki, I think it's better to be here when you have them. In that case, you can stay as long as you want. I have a meeting with Tsunade Bachan tomorrow. I think I am gonna tell her about you staying here, but I'll ask her not to tell anybody else. That way she can tell your parents that you are safe and you don't have to worry about being found. After he had finished this sentence, Ino's head shot up only to collide with his in a painful manner. "Ah shit. That hurt," she said, but realized it was her fault anyway, so she couldn't blame him. "Are you sure she will do it? I mean, she is the Hokage and we're just genin. My dad is part of the council and all. Don't worry. She has a sweet spot for people with troubles," Naruto said. "She's a gambling, drinking old hag with way too big, but she is a good person nonetheless." The blonde girl stared at her counterpart. Was it really okay for him to speak like that about the Hokage? Well, he had spent more time with the women than Ino had, so maybe he was right. Now it was her turn to thank him. Placing her head on his shoulder again, she whispered, "Thank you, Uzumaki." His answer was a yawn and a slight snore. Ino suppressed the urge to hit him and instead giggled at this goofball of a boy. Suddenly she decided that if he would really manage to get her a safe place to hide from her parents, then she would make sure that he wasn't alone anymore. Who knew? Maybe Naruto could turn out to be an impressive ninja with a little help. He had shown the potential for it before. And he was a good guy at heart, although annoying. Plus she could prove her parents wrong. They had said she should stop being a ninja, because she wasn't cut to be one in their eyes. They even dared to go that far as to say she would drag her fellow ninja down. Now she sat next to someone who believed in her and said she should prove them wrong. Determined, she decided that from tomorrow on, Ino Yamanaka would start to train herself. Even more than that, she would make sure to help Naruto to improve in every way possible. The boy had been there for her and had called her a friend. If there was one thing you could say about Ino other than being troublesome, as Shikamaru always said, it was the fact that they cared about her friends and wanted to bring out the best in them. She would form Naruto in the strong, smart ninja that could rival Sasuke anytime. After all, behind every strong man, there is an even stronger woman. As she sat next to the snoring boy, a plan began to form in her head, and if it would go as planned, both of them would profit in the end. Getting up in the morning was something Naruto always had a problem with. Not that he overslept. No, he always woke up before his alarm started, but leaving the sheets and starting the day was one of the most hated activities of his life. Today it was even harder for him. He didn't have to open his eyes to notice the first rays of sunshine coming through the window of his living room and landing on his face. He knew that he had fallen on the couch yesterday, so it wasn't too strange to be woken by the sun. What was strange was the fact that something tickled his face. Also, he had some kind of weight on him which held him on the couch. Also, he could smell green apple shampoo. His shampoo certainly didn't smell like green apple. Most of his cleaning stuff smelled like vanilla. Hinata had convinced him to try it not too long ago and had got him some of it. Naruto had to admit after using it, that it really smelled good. Not too strong, not too sweet, but just right. So why did it smell like green apple around him? There was only one way to find out, so slowly he opened his eyes only to be blinded by the bright sunlight. Slowly his eyes started to adjust themselves and he could see what that weight on him was and why it smelled like green apple shampoo around him. With him on the couch was Ino, her face buried in the crook of his neck, her now shoulder-length blonde hair straight over his face. Somehow she hadn't gone back to the bedroom after his nightmare had woken her last night. But while the bed had room for two people to stay without on top of each other, the couch hadn't too much space. That was why she lay on top of him. The whole situation slowly began to seep into his mind. He was on the couch. The blonde girl on top of him was his friend Ino. They had slept the night snuggled together. He had slept with Ino Yamanaka on top of him. In other words, Naruto Uzumaki was dead meat if she woke up now. That in mind, he did the most idiotic thing he could do right now. He jumped up, as far as it was possible, and brought the very much needed distance between them. His problem was that with her weight on him, he just fell from the couch, hit his head on the floor with a loud thud. A second later he realized that a simple Kawarimi no Jutsu would have been enough to get out of the situation without trouble. Now it was too late. The noise and his movement only lead to the thing he wanted to avoid. Ino was awake. He mentally prepared for his death as she opened her blue eyes and focused on him on. As scared as Naruto was, it was interesting to witness the emotions playing on her face. He could see confusion, then a realization, and then anger. She sat up from her lying position and raised her hand to hit him. Naruto closed his eyes and waited for her fist to collide with his face, but all he felt was a fierce whack on the back of his head. Then he heard her annoyed voice. Uzumaki, do you have to be that loud? Really, I had such a nice dream and you have to wake me up. She muttered and let her head fall back on the pillow to sleep again. Naruto was confused to say the least. That was all. No screaming or beating the shit out of him. Not that he needed more, his head hurt enough, but he was used to harsher treatment for minor mistakes. Sakura had a very painful way to stop him from doing them again. He had to know. Ino? He asked, cautious. She groaned. What is it, Uzumaki? I'm tired, so let me sleep or I hit you again, she mumbled. Waking me in the middle of the night, rude idiot. She turned around and tried to get in the sleeping bag. You're not going to kill me because we spent the night on the couch together. He couldn't believe it. Was he dreaming? Or did she already kill him and he was now in heaven? Well, there was no sea of ramen in front of him, so it was unlikely to be heaven. Before he could continue to wonder why he wasn't a bruised pulp on the floor, Ino answered his question. Why should I? It was me who fell asleep on you, wasn't it? So it would have been my fault anyway if something happened? She asked. If there is something that is your damn fault, it is waking me up without having breakfast ready. Beside that, you did nothing wrong. Well, she was right. It had been her who fell asleep on him. No arguing with that, but Sakura would surely have. He never came to end his sentence. Ino cut him off with another groan and lifted herself up again to look at him. I am not Sakura, okay? Nothing happened. You're a damn comfortable cushion to sleep on and it's your home. So please stop complaining because I don't beat the bloody life out of you. She told him, before she got back to try sleeping. Oh, and while you're awake, why don't you make me scrambled eggs for breakfast? That way you could make up for waking me this early and I could sleep a few minutes more. With that, she turned away from him, just to show him that the conversation was over. Naruto couldn't believe it. How could she be so relaxed about what happened, when Sakura-chan would? Well, she wasn't Sakura-chan, she had said so herself. Who was he to complain? Before Ino decided to change her mind about it, he got up from the floor and went into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Ino was right, about the time he realized with a look on the time. 7 a.m. Well, not really early in his book, but considering that most genin teams didn't train before 10 a.m., it could explain why Ino wasn't used to get up at this time. Following Ino's wishes, he started to prepare the scrambled eggs. His meeting with Tsunade Bachan wasn't before lunch, so he could spend the morning with a little bit training for himself. After all, Sasuke was still in the hospital, and knowing his pink-haired teammate, she was just at the same place to make sure the bastard had everything he needed. Without him noticing it, his hands began to shake again. While he was in the kitchen, Naruto got lost in his thoughts. Absently made everything ready so his guest could eat as soon as she decided to get up. After he had set everything up, the blonde boy went to his dresser, got some clothes and went to the bathroom. Ino's stuff was left in one of the corners and he blushed as he noticed her underwear lying on top of the heap of clothes. Trying to ignore these things, he got under the shower and after becoming clean he dressed himself in his favorite orange cargo pants, a black shirt and a mesh shirt over it. His headband and jacket he had left in the kitchen. He would get them later, after he had brushed his teeth. That day had just started crazy and the demon vessel was sure that this wasn't the end in the line of crazy things to happen. Living with someone was different from being just by himself, but in a good way. Scary at times, he knew that much, after just the first night, but it was nonetheless nice. Naruto wondered if there would be a lot more embarrassing things, like waking up this morning. He could think of a ton of accidents that could happen and embarrass him and Ino to no end. Just the thought of Ero-Sennin finding out about Ino staying here. He had to shudder at that thought. That would be something he just had to avoid. Ino had already started eating when he came back in the kitchen. Her hair was messy, and she ate like she had no manner at all. Wolfing down the food he had prepared. Naruto ignored that. He wasn't the one who could complain about people lacking manners. His eyes returned to Ino's hair. It wasn't the long glory mane anymore. The fight with Sakura in the Chunin exams had made sure of that. It had grown a bit since then and went just a little over her shoulders now. Plus it wasn't in the normal ponytail that Ino always wore. However, it looked really nice to see her hair down. It was so different from Sakura-chan's. Naruto liked it way better in this messy style. Again, he was lucky that she had her back turned to him and didn't see him staring. Tearing his eyes from her hair, he went to the kitchen table and sat down on the opposite side. The blonde girl seemed to be pleased with his cooking. He had been lucky that she wanted scrambled egg for breakfast, because it was one of the few things he was able to cook. As she looked up from her meal, Ino noticed him. She had obviously been lost in the taste of the food or her own thoughts. There was something in her eyes as she looked at him, but he couldn't really figure out what it was. Naruto, this is great. I didn't know you could cook this well. She praised him. He smiled at her and gave her a small thanks. His cooking wasn't something he was proud of. Tsuki and Ayame were so much more skilled than he was. You know, we still have a lot of time before we have to meet Tsunade Bachan. I don't know about you, but how about we set some rules how we're going to manage this whole living arrangement? You know, just to prevent embarrassing situations. That caught her by surprise. Naruto saw how she hadn't expected him to see that far. Then again, he was quite convinced no one would have expected him to think of such thing. To tell the truth, he was surprised himself that he had thought about it. Well, how about we finish breakfast first? After that we can still discuss these things. Knowing you, you have to be starving, she said. And just in that moment his stomach confirmed her thoughts with a loud growling. You're right. Let's eat first. And with that they continued their meal in silence. So, what rules do you have in mind for this? Well, whatever it is. Naruto asked her. You know, since I've spent all my life living alone, I don't really know how it works. The orphanage had some rules, but I forgot most of them. Maybe it's best if you set a few rules first. Ino looked at him and wasn't sure if he was serious. Then again, he was right. She knew a lot more things about living with other people. Not that she liked all the rules her parents had set, but some of them were really helpful if you wanted to avoid the household being at each other's throats. Why not go with them? Okay. First of all, we should set rules for the bathroom. Then I think we could continue with the rules concerning our food and such things. Maybe change our sleeping arrangement. The couch doesn't seem too comfortable after all, don't you agree? She smiled at him, as he nodded like a small child. What a cute clueless expression. He really seemed to have no social skills at all. Well, Ino was just the right person to change that. She asked him to give her a pen and a piece of paper, to note all their future rules down, and while Naruto began to search for said items, Ino thought about the habits of both parties. It would make things easier if the rules applied to their habits. Like if Naruto was a morning person, it would be easier to let him have the bathroom first, because Ino just loved to sleep a bit longer if she could. Soon Naruto came back, pen and paper in his hand. He gave it to her, sat down and watched her, like she was about to tell him about the most awesome jutsu he had ever heard of. An hour and some hard discussions concerning no more ramen than 3 times a week, who would do which chores in the house, who would shower first, because apparently none of them was a real morning person, and a few other minor things. They had now reached the last and most important part of the list: sleeping arrangements. Ino, after last night, had decided that she couldn't let Naruto sleep on the couch. Not that he would not survive it, but after that nightmare he had, well, she just wanted to be around him the next time something like that happened. However, not only would she have to convince Naruto to agree to them sleeping in the same room, but they would also have to buy a futon. As much as she liked the boy as a friend and was thankful for him letting her stay at his house, there was no way she would agree to them sleeping in the same bed. The same room was okay. It was like sharing a tent with Shika when they were on Big Deal, but sleeping in the same bed somehow had such a special meaning. And there was no boy she would let in her bed at this moment. As she told Naruto her thoughts, save for the last part, the boy had an understanding expression on his face. Not only that, but he had also learned in the last hour that there was no arguing with Ino if she had set her mind on something. Or at least Ino hoped he had learned that special trait of her character. It's okay, Ino. We'll get a futon. No big deal at all, he said. I understand that you don't want anyone other than Sasuke Tem to be that close to you. His grin was so wide and bright that Ino forgot what he had said for a moment, while she mused how someone could stretch his facial expressions like that. It took her a few seconds to understand what he had said, because that grin had something strange that distracted her. As she finally got what Naruto had, she had to pause for a moment. Why would you think I would Sasuke sleep in my bed? Are you crazy? She asked the boy, who obviously was confused by her question. Don't you love him? He asked. I mean, no offense, but the way you always acted when the Tem was around kind of implied that you had feelings for him. You know, fighting with Sakura over who of you will get him. Fawning how great the guy is. Trying to hug him all the time. Doesn't that mean that you like him? Suddenly Ino's laughing filled the kitchen. So that was it. Of course he couldn't know it. Now his question made sense. Naruto thought that her "I want Sasuke" play had been real. Poor boy, she had to explain it to him, before he hurt his head thinking too hard. That is what you mean. Listen, Naruto, I don't like Sasuke. Well, maybe I like his looks a little bit, but, well, I don't have real feelings for him. You don't. His confused face was just too funny to look at, that was for sure. No. Here, let me explain it to you, so you can understand it. When do you train harder? When you're alone or when you're training with Sasuke? Tell me. Ino watched him as he thought about her question. Probably when I'm training with Sasuke. I have to keep up with him after all. He told, clearly not seeing the connection. What does that have to do with you liking him? Well, you see, it's the same with me and Sakura. If we have a rival, we try harder. You know, when I first met Sakura, she was really shy, but after she had me as a friend and later as a rival, she began to grow confident. Ino explained to him. That's why I pretend to like this brooding emo. It makes Sakura want to keep up to me in every way. I know we aren't friends like when we were younger, but she is still important to me. Plus it pisses Sasuke off whenever we fight over him. It's really funny. Ino's evil grin made Naruto laugh. Well, now the boy knew that he wasn't the only one who wasn't too fond of Sasuke. Even if the black-haired boy really did look good. Well, too bad he had the personality of an ice block. So you don't like the Tem? Was that ease in his voice? Anyway, Ino shook her head to answer his question. Wow, that's funny. There are only 3 other girls I met so far, who didn't like Sasuke. Maybe there is still hope for us other guys. The mischief in his voice was nearly grabbable. Don't get ahead of yourself, Whisker Boy. Just because I don't like him, doesn't mean I like you or the other boys in that way, she told him. A girl like her would never settle for less than the best she could get. Ino huffed. Sorry, it's just nice to know that there are some pretty girls who don't like the kind of him. Naruto told her. So, back to the sleeping thing. We share a room, but I will have to sleep on the futon, right? No problem with me. Shall we buy it now? Jisk Naruto, do you really think I'll go out like this? Ino pointed at the too large shirt and his boxer she was wearing right now. Let me at least dress myself. Well, I don't see the problem. You will get all the boys' attention if you go out like this. It's not always that they see such a beautiful girl in such clothes, is it? He mocked her. He didn't notice the faint blush on her cheeks from what he had called her, and what's worse is that she balled her fist a second later. Bad mistake. A minute later he had 2 large bruises on his head and a fuming Ino who went to the bathroom. She had told him that they would go shopping later, after she had washed her own clothes and put them in the dryer. Till then he should finish washing the plates from breakfast. As Naruto was about to complain, Ino told him to shut up and see it as a punishment for making fun of her. Half an hour later, as she had said, Ino emerged from the bathroom again and found her blonde roommate sleeping on the couch. She woke him up, grabbed one of her ceiling scrolls for the things they wanted to buy and told Naruto to get dressed. Watching him as he put on his jacket, she suddenly noticed something. Without his headband his hair looked much better. Walking over to him she took the headband from his hand and took the zipper of his jacket. A moment later she had opened the jacket. What are you doing, Ino? The boy asked, not understanding what the girl was up to. I'm giving you a few fashion tips. God knows you need them, she said and fixed his headband around his belt. That was something Ino was good at. Fashion and makeovers. Great ninjas had to look cool, and if she wanted Naruto to become one, she could start with his looks after all. Maybe she would even manage to get him to wear less of this orange horror he called clothes. Here, see. She dragged him in front of a mirror. You look way better with your hair free like that. And with the open jacket you can now hide weapons in it and have easy access to them. Also it suits you way better. Really? The blonde demon vessel asked. Of course. Unlike you, I have a sense of fashion. Ino told him with a grin. Now come on. We don't have all day, Whisker Boy. She grabbed his hand, while Naruto was still watching himself in the mirror. Then she pulled him out of the apartment. It was time for shopping. Luckily Naruto didn't see the gleam in the blue eyes of Ino Yamanaka, or else he would have run to Suna, just to fight Gaara again. If there was something that he would remember from this day, it would be the next 2 hours till they had to meet the Hokage. He didn't even know what had hit him. Dragging her blonde counterpart through the streets of Konoha, Ino had a happy smile on her face. Shopping with Naruto was something different from normal shopping, she thought. Well, somehow everything she had experienced with him in these 2 days had been special in some way so far, but this was definitely the best thing. She knew that she tended to be a little carefree whenever she started to go through shops, tried this and that on, did the window shopping and everything that went with her hobby. She also knew that it was hard for people to keep up when she was in such a carefree rush. That was why a lot of people didn't like to go with her, when Ino got like that. The blonde girl had seen how he looked when she had dragged him in the third shop to just look, even though they already had everything they needed to get. He didn't like shopping one little bit, Ino had realized. Ino had also picked up why. It was because every store owner had this look when they saw him, just like some villagers had. Not exactly what Ino would call nice, but it seemed since the heir of the Yamanaka clan was with him, they didn't want to say anything. But back to why this kind of shopping was special to Ino. It was because Naruto was a real sweetheart. Whenever she asked him in her sweetest voice if they could go in another shop for just looking, the boy would smile, nod and let himself be dragged into it. He would even try on the few outfits she picked out for him, though it needed a little bit of convincing from her side. Now they had still half an hour to get to the Hokage and Ino had satisfied her urge to find new clothes for her and Naruto, which said boy was now carrying for her, because her scroll was already filled with the other stuff. The bags she had left in his hands were filled with 3 new outfits for each of them and Ino was very proud that she had found them in such a short amount of time. The best part was that they hadn't been that expensive, since the shop owners seemed to want to get rid of her companion as fast as possible and had sold their stuff at a very low price. Naruto had paid for his clothes and when Ino had found the third outfit for herself, but hadn't got enough money with her, the boy had paid it for her with a small smile. She didn't know why Naruto was this nice to her and when she had asked him he had just said, "Because you spend your time with me." She had seen the small glint of pain in his eyes when he said that, but didn't press further and accepted it. Feeling a little exhausted from her 1.5 hour rush, she linked arms with Naruto and laid her head on his shoulder. Thank God he wasn't that much taller than her. This trip had been exactly what she had needed to get her mind off her parents. They had everything to start her plan and could begin with their training. All they had left to do was talking to Tsunade-sama and Naruto had promised her that there would be no problem with that. When she saw the little ramen shop down the street, Ino decided that she would do something nice for Naruto too. Everybody knew of his love for ramen and she had enough money for 2 bowls. Hey Whiskers, are you hungry? My treat, of course. The question wasn't needed. The boy could always eat, she had heard that from Sakura. Without waiting for an answer, she moved him into the shop and onto one of the chairs. Here, I've got enough for 2 bowls. You can have both. Ino told him with a smile. Really? Don't you want something to eat too? Just shaking her head, she denied and Naruto ordered 2 bowls for himself. The old man who ran the shop laughed at him and started to prepare a few bowls. The 2 teens just sat there and didn't know what to talk about. The silence wasn't that uncomfortable. Somehow they both never liked to talk when they ate, so it wasn't that bad. After a few minutes there were 5 steaming bowls of ramen before them. 4 for Naruto and 1 for Ino. Noticing it, she opened her mouth but was cut off by the old man. Don't worry. The extra bowls are on the house. It's our special Naruto and friends discount. He laughed at Ino's surprised face. Dig in, you look hungry too. That was weird, but who was she to complain? As she started to eat, the blonde girl watched the owner and his daughter whisper to each other and throw a glance to her and Naruto from time to time. The girl seemed to have noticed that Ino had seen them and came to the counter. So you two, what are you up to when you have finished your meal? Ayame asked them. The brunette girl had a wicked smile and gave Ino a knowing look. Well, at least that was how Ino interpreted that look. Oh, we're going to visit Granny Tsunade because she wanted to see me. And Ino has to talk to her too, so we go together. Naruto explained between two bites. Remember Naruto, don't cause any problems. I heard she is very strong and has a short temper. The ramen girl said with a worried look. You will make sure he behaves, The question hit Ino without her being prepared and she could just nod. What relation had this girl with Naruto? Not that the blonde was jealous. No way, not of Naruto. Sure, she had known how it must have looked when she and Whiskers had strolled through the shops and she had seen some jealous stares in his direction from a few civilian boys, but they sure didn't think she and Naruto were together, did they? Before Ino could say any more, Naruto answered Ayame's question for her. Don't worry, Ayame-ni-chan. I won't cause trouble. You always assume the worst from me, he said, pouting. Ino had to giggle from his face. Naruto pouting. Talk about cute. Ayame seemed to pick up her thoughts. Well, at least I can be sure that Miss Yamanaka keeps an eye on you, Ino. The suggestiveness of Ayame's words weren't picked up by Naruto. Ino, however, choked on her food, which had the ramen girl laugh again. After their meal, Naruto and Ino went straight to the Hogake Tower, and after a few more minutes they stood in the office of Tsunade, who was doing her paperwork as they came through the door. The older blonde looked up and smiled at them, happy to see Naruto being on time. Ah, good you're here, and Ino too, that spares me time. Tsunade's eyes locked on the young girl. Ino knew the next words before her Hokage had even said them. Ino, I had a very interesting talk with your dad this morning. Would you want to discuss that now, or would you rather wait? I am sure Naruto here doesn't bother you. No, he doesn't. He let me stay with him last night, so it's just fair he gets to know why I had a fight with my parents. A small nod was all she got for an answer, before Tsunade took a small folder from her paperwork, opened it, and then focused on Ino again. Very well then. Today your dad came here and asked me to revoke your status as a ninja, as he doesn't think that you are fit for it. Also, he said you ran away from home. Is that right? Ino ignored Naruto's gasp and stood there as if what had been said didn't faze her. He said the truth. I ran away and spent the night at Naruto's place since he found me crying in the street, she answered, ignoring Tsunade's raised brow. My dad is also right that I don't fit the expectations for being a ninja. At least not at this moment. She had to be honest here. There was no sense in lying or saying her dad was wrong. She had made the mistake and took being a ninja not as seriously as she should have. Now she would make up for it. Ino wasn't good at confessing that she was wrong, but if Naruto could be that nice to her despite her harsh words in the past, then she could take the bitter pill and stand up for her wrongs. Is that all you have to say? The Hokage seemed curious about hearing Ino's side as well. Ino took a glance at Naruto, who had a shocked face. Gathering what courage she found in her body, the blonde girl thought what words were the right ones. Bachin, you can't sari, Naruto began but was cut off. Shut up, Naruto. I asked Yamanaka Ino and not Uzumaki Naruto. So as long as you don't change your name and gender, be silent and wait for your turn to speak. Shouted the Hokage. Now Yamanaka, my time is short. Give me an answer. He closed his mouth. This was serious, he noticed, because the Hokage hadn't thrown him out of the window by now. He waited for Ino's answer and begged to Kami that she would say the right things. It's not all I have to say, Hokage-sama. Yes, my dad is right. I am no good ninja, but I want to improve. I've made the mistake of taking things too lightly and I want to make up for it. With your permission, I would like to undergo special training to be able to help my fellow ninjas. Well, now she had said it. There was nothing else to do but to wait for an answer. The big smile on Tsunade's face made her relax a bit. Well, you're one lucky girl. I called Naruto here to tell him about a special training he is about to go through in the next 4 months. If you want, you can join him. Really? Ino's voice had her happy tone again. Her eyes were sparkling with joy about getting a second chance in being a good ninja. Yes. Now to that training, which now concerns both of you. Tsunade began. She took out another folder and a scroll. Since your marks in the academy were the worst, Naruto and Ino doesn't seem to fit the expectation of being a ninja, both of you won't take any missions till I say otherwise. I can't have bad ninja in a time like we're now in. You are from now on considered academy students. In the next time, both of you will have a refreshment of your basic ninja skills. That means both practical and theoretical. Therefore, you will be taken from your teams and trained by special teachers. The remains of your teams will be put together. In other words, Choji takes Naruto's place in Team 7 since Shikamaru is already a Chunin. When the two of you have finished this refreshment, you will get two other teachers who will teach you higher rank skills that are chosen by me and your teachers. These skills will fit to each of you in a special way, since I do believe both of you are very promising in some special fields and we can't let such talent go to waste, can we? Ino looked over to Naruto, who just stood there and had a shocked look on his face. Ino could see that he didn't take not being a genin anymore lightly. You can't be serious, old hag. You can't take our headbands, we both passed the test. We were accepted in the damn Chunin exams. What does the pervert say to this? Our Kakashi-sensei. His rage was clear in his voice. He was about to argue a lot more, but Tsunade spent the next 5 minutes explaining to him in every detail where he lacked skills and showing how he had to undergo special training now that they were at war with Orochimaru. She tried to be nice and to calm him down, but he still had a sour look as Tsunade continued. You will keep your headbands, but both of you have to understand that we expect a lot from this training. Don't waste this chance. Especially you, Naruto. You know how highly I think of you, and I am convinced that you will get a lot stronger with this training. Don't forget how important you are to the ninja force in this village after you won against Gaara of the Sand. We can't risk you dying because you are too damn proud. What would the villagers say? Understanding the hint, Naruto said nothing and just nodded. If he wanted to still be a ninja, he just had to go with it. Even if he didn't like it. His hard look vanished as he felt Ino taking his hand, forcing him to look at her. Hey Naruto, cheer up. We will both give our best and then we will show everyone that we can be the great ninja they expect us to be, she whispered in his ear. Ino would make sure the boy took the chance. And with these special skills, you can't bet that you will kick Sasuke's and impress Sakura. So don't complain. Please. The last word came out in her sweetest voice again, and she knew he couldn't resist that, and somehow he got cheery again. After the girl had let go of him, Tsunade gave them both a few scrolls. In these scrolls are all the books you need. They also contain some things that are important for you to know but aren't taught at the academy. Tsunade explained. The teacher will come to your apartment tomorrow, Naruto. I am convinced Ino wants to stay with you since it will make learning together easier. Your teammates will also be informed. Please, both of you, give your best and don't make me regret giving you this chance. Dismissed. We won't. Both blondes answered and then turned to leave the office, since this talk was now over. As Naruto went out of the door, Tsunade called for Ino again. Obviously she still had to say something. Naruto said he would wait outside for Ino. What else is there to know, Tsunade-sama? She didn't know what to expect. The older blonde, however, looked her straight in the eyes. You and Naruto are pretty close, she said. You also seem to have a positive effect on him. That's good, but make sure you don't abuse his friendship, Ino. I would never. How could the Hokage say something like this? I just want you to have in mind that Naruto has it kind of harder than others to find friends. He trusts you and that is good. But I have a question. What is the meaning if the hands of a person start to shake without them being able to control it? As someone who knows the human mind, I'm sure you know. Of course. It's a sign of stress and suppressed emotions. Well, it is for most people. There are a few other reasons, but it's mostly that. Ino replied. Why did Tsunade ask her that? What I tell you now is a secret. Don't tell anybody, understood? Tsunade said and got a nod from Ino. In Naruto's medical record, it is noted that his hands are shaking since the second part of the Chunin exams. Not all the time, but often enough. You mean? Exactly. There is a second reason I want you to undergo this training with him. You shall keep an eye on him. The boy doesn't talk too much about his feelings, and I fear that could have a bad effect. Since you are a Yamanaka, you know what you have to look for, and as his friend, you care for him. He needs a friend that is there for him, and there are only a few people to give him that. Oh, okay. That was a lot to swallow. Please understand that I won't force you to do this. I probably shouldn't care as much about that boy, but he is very dear to me. I wouldn't ask you if I didn't trust you with this task. After what I've seen today, I think you're the only one who is capable of doing what I just asked. Without waiting to be dismissed, Ino left the room. Tsunade-sama trusted her to take on such a task. Wow. Just wow. Then again, she had already planned to stay with Naruto and be there for him, so this fit perfectly to what she wanted to do to him, and Naruto was a great friend. He had proven that the last 2 days. What bad came from this? She wanted to be his friend. She wanted to take care of him. She wanted to grow strong with him. As she met him outside and they started to go to his place, Ino wore her smile and determination open on her face. The two blondes would show them all. They would make the best out of this. Linking with Naruto's arm once more, she promised herself to change for the better. No more slacking. It was time to grow up. For both of them. Ah, damn it. Why is this so hard? The voice of her roommate went through their apartment. It wasn't the first time this had happened today, and Ino knew that it sure wasn't the last time. Studying had never been Naruto's strong side, and it didn't take a genius to figure that out. Sure, he gave it his all right now, if just to get back to going on missions, but something inside the poor boy refused to help him understand the content of the like before were the result when he grew frustrated with himself and his inability to learn, and as a side effect they annoyed Ino a great deal. Still, she had to give it to Naruto that he didn't quit. She remembered how back in the academy he would just quit listening to Iruka-sensei as soon as he couldn't follow the lecture anymore, but now he actually tried to understand the theoretical part of being a ninja. When the Hokage had first told them that they both had to work on their lacking abilities as hard as they could, she hadn't been joking. It was hard to keep up with the drill each of them had to endure. While Naruto didn't have a problem with normal training and learning jutsu, he still had to make up for what he had missed out in the academy. Meaning he had to study like there was no tomorrow. Which he surprisingly did. He had even decided that he would not only study at home but also went to the classes when Iruka-sensei was teaching the academy students. Ino couldn't imagine how embarrassing that had to be for her friend. Also, he would study even though today was one of their few days off. He was really taking this chance as seriously as possible. Luckily, when Iruka had first come to teach him in private, the Chunin had told Naruto a little secret about shadow clones and their abilities. Ino had been surprised when Naruto had told her about how everything the clone learned came back to the original as soon as the clone vanished. This little fact had been a great help to the boy's task of catching up on his theoretical skills. However, it didn't mean that it made everything a piece of cake for him. Studying was still hard for Naruto, and that meant he would complain all the time about how he didn't get the stuff, which got on Ino's nerves. More so since she had just lain down on the couch to relax a bit while watching TV. Couldn't he just shut up and take a break this one time? Just for the sake of her sanity. It wasn't often that she had had the chance to relax in this last month, since Asuma was training her in taijutsu and ninjutsu every day now that his team was disbanded. While this was paying off and her skills had improved just as much as Naruto's had, she still needed a break from time to time. So why did the boy have to study when she just wanted to do nothing but enjoy a lazy day? Getting stronger was important. Ino had realized that after 1 month of training, but there was more to life than just being a ninja. Sometimes you had to enjoy life. Sighing, she decided that it was time for her to help her whisker boy or force him to take a break, or else she would never come to enjoy her free day. She got up from the couch and went into the kitchen where Naruto was reading a big textbook. He sat there in his orange pants and black shirt, resting his head in his hands. The boy was that concentrated he didn't notice Ino approaching him from behind, till she sneaked her arms around his shoulders and rested her chin on them with a smirk. The blue-eyed girl felt her friend tense and knew that the reason was that he wasn't used to having people get close to him in such a way, though Ino had been very affectionate to him after they had become good friends. It was just her way of getting attention from others, and the fact that Naruto reacted way harder to her little hugs than other people was just a little bonus. After all, Ino loved, no, needed, a lot of attention. She herself didn't know why, but she just needed it. Also, she wasn't the shy type, so for her it was no problem to be close to others. You know, Whiskers, if you don't understand the book, you could ask for help instead of yelling every 5 minutes. She whispered in his ear and caused a shiver to run through his body. She felt that all of his concentration on the book had disappeared. A smile crept on her face at his reaction. Naruto was just so easy to tease, it was funny. It was just like she was the first person ever to get close to him. Whenever Ino had tried to get attention from others, like Sasuke for example, they had never shifted their attention to her as much as Naruto did. It was satisfying to know her little tricks worked. Sorry. I just have to understand this. The sooner the better, so I can go on missions again. He told her and tried to not move more than absolutely necessary. I know. Ino replied, but you have to take a break sometimes. If not for you, then for my nerves. She hadn't changed her position because she knew how it gave her at least a little bit of control about the boy in front of her. Also, she liked to torture him a little bit. Naruto was clearly uncomfortable with her being so close. Only this chapter. Iruka-sensei said that this is one of the last books I have to read before I can take the theoretical academy test again. There was a pleading tone in his voice. Another sigh escaped the blonde girl as she let go of Naruto, took a chair and sat down next to him. It would be too much trouble to force him to take a break now. So if he wanted to learn so bad, why not help him? Okay, I'll help you or I'll never get my peace, she told him with a smile. So where's the problem? With that said, Naruto began to explain to her how he wasn't getting some of the more complicated words that were important. They sat on the chapter for more than an hour before Naruto finally got all of it, but Ino couldn't really say that she didn't enjoy helping him. It was nice to be able to help someone, and Naruto was giving her his best. Not once did he complain or lose concentration. Sometimes he would compliment her on how she could understand everything so fast. It was really flattering to have someone who praised you in that way. As soon as the book had been closed, the Yamanaka made her way to the living room again and took Naruto with her. She really needed to relax now that she had the chance. They both settled down on the couch, but just as Ino had found something she wanted to watch, there was a knock on Naruto's door. That did it. She was never getting her peace now, and her own frustration escaped her in a stream of loud curses. Whoever this was, the person was about to experience a very painful death as soon as Ino got up. Sadly, her own training with Asuma yesterday had taken its toll, and it was just too hard to leave her comfortable position on the couch. Still cursing under her breath, she decided to just kill the person as soon as whoever it was came into her reach on the couch. Meanwhile, Naruto had gotten to the door and opened it to find the two persons he had expected the least. There stood his old teammates, the ones who he hadn't spoken to since Ino's and his training had started a month ago. Neither of them had ever visited him before, and he would have never thought that they would ever come knocking on his door. After all, outside of missions, Team 7 had never been very close. "What are you two doing here?" he asked them, very confused. "We're here to visit you. It's really obvious, Dobi," Sasuke said, his tone annoyed as always. "Yeah, and we wanted to know why you weren't on the team anymore and why Choji took your place." "Kakashi doesn't want to tell us," Sakura added. "It's been a month since Choji took my place and now you decided to ask." Naruto's question had exactly the same small hint of anger his face showed. They had to really care if it took them a month to visit him for answers. "We didn't really have time for visits. First I wasn't allowed to leave the hospital, and then when I got out Kakashi tells us you had to leave the team and that we had to go on a long-term mission. It turns out that finding a stupid thief in the mountains can take a lot of time if he is a ninja," Sasuke explained in a flat voice. "Can we please come in, Naruto?" Sakura asked. "We will explain everything to you and then you can tell us what made you leave the team if you want." When Sakura had finished, Naruto just nodded and let them in. The way Sasuke had reminded him how he could not go on missions had stung. It wasn't their fault, so why make a fuss about it now? They had come after all. He led his teammates into his living room where Ino lay on the couch. As soon as Ino and Sakura saw each other, Naruto could feel the tension in the air. Sasuke seemed just a little bit surprised to see Ino in Naruto's home, the blonde boy noticed. Or maybe he just didn't care. Before Naruto could say anything, both girls asked, or better screamed, the question that stood open in the room. "What are you doing in Naruto's home?" Oh boy, there would be a lot of explaining to do. Ino's last hope of a relaxing afternoon had long vanished and had been replaced with the long boring task of explaining their situation to Naruto's former teammates. She had seen the smirk on Sasuke's face when he heard about how Naruto had to go to learn academy skills again, and it had been a lot of fun to see it vanish from his face as she told them how she and Naruto would get special teachers as soon as Tsunade-sama deemed them to be at a certain level. After that, it had mostly been Sakura asking questions while the Uchiha resorted to brooding like he always did and ignored his surroundings mostly. Sadly, Sakura was really interested as to why Ino had decided to stay at Naruto's and never forgot to mention how it looked like Ino had a thing for the blonde boy. Also, she mentioned how Ino had stopped approaching Sasuke-kun like she did all the other times, which in Sakura's eyes meant that Ino had finally realized how much better the pink-haired girl fit to the Uchiha. Surprisingly, Ino didn't start a fight. She decided that there was no need to challenge Sakura in any way to explain to her how she never had noticed the Uchiha for more than his looks. The longer Sakura rambled on, the more Ino noticed what a stupid girl Sakura had become. The pink-haired girl talked as if she was superior to Ino, because she was still doing missions, while she forgot that Ino's and her match in the Chunin exams had been a draw. It was quite clear that unlike Ino, Sakura hadn't improved her skill much since then. Ino saw that it confused Sakura that she didn't talk back to any of the things that normally started one of their little fights. However, the next thing Sakura said triggered a reaction from Ino that had been totally unexpected. While she had been rambling, her speech had led her to how well the new team worked together and that Choji was a really good replacement for Naruto. And while Sakura told Ino about how much better the new team worked without Naruto and Sasuke always fighting, she missed how Naruto's hands began to shake again. Ino for her part did not and understood what was going on. Naruto's crush indirectly told her how bad the boy was, while he sat next to said crush. Before Ino could say anything, Sakura said the words she would have better kept to herself. Well, maybe it's really for the best that Naruto and you go through this training. He really needs it, since he never was that great in missions. Naruto, Ino and even Sasuke flinched at her words. Sasuke was about to tell Sakura something, but the blonde girl in the room never left him a chance to do so. Instead, she began to scold her former friend in a loud and enraged voice. Yeah, and you're so much better, forehead girl. At least Naruto can fight other ninjas without someone else holding his hand or having to watch out for him every time. Sakura's surprise wouldn't have been greater if someone had told her that she should wear green spandex. She gaped at Ino, who was fuming at her and about to continue her rant. You're not a notch stronger than me, and that's not that much. I'm pretty sure without Sasuke or Naruto keeping your back safe, you would have died on your first C-rank mission or when Suna. Since you are not that strong, please use the brain behind your large forehead and think about who is listening to the shit that comes out of your mouth. Naruto is a way better ninja than you are, just because he tries his best to improve whenever he can. Before things could get out of hand, Sasuke stepped in and told Sakura that it would be better if both of them left now. So he grabbed the pink-haired girl's arm and dragged her away, after he said goodbye to Naruto. Oh, and Dobi, he said as he was about to get out of the door. I want to fight you as soon as your training is finished. With that, he closed the door and left Ino and Naruto alone. The boy just sat in his place, hands still shaking, and didn't say anything. To hear how lowly Sakura thought of him had hurt like hell and at the same time made him angry. Ino could read that on his face, all the emotions that were forced to the surface. It hurt her to see her friend like this, and out of instinct she embraced him in a tight hug and comforted him as well as she could, telling him how Sakura was just stupid and how he shouldn't let it get to him. She really did her best to repair the damage the words of his former teammate had caused. When Naruto suddenly returned her hug and buried his head in the crook of her neck, she couldn't have been more shocked. Or so she thought, till she felt his wet tears drench her clothes. It seemed that this had just been the last straw, and now Naruto had to let out all he had inside him. When the first shock had worn off, Ino began to stroke the boy's back in a soothing manner, whispering words of comfort in his ear. It wasn't a happy moment, but it made her happy that Naruto trusted her enough to open up that much. The afternoon turned evening and Naruto was still pouring his heart out to her, while she had gotten them some chocolate ice cream. They just sat there and he talked, Ino listening to him. Tomorrow both of them would have to train again, but right now Ino thought that didn't matter. What mattered was the new deeper bond the two blondes were forming. At some point Naruto asked Ino to tell him something about her past, to get to know her better. They talked till deep in the night, neither of them caring how their day had turned out. All that mattered to them was listening to each other. This moment was one of the few times in her life that made Ino utterly speechless. After finally reaching the level the Hokage considered being fit for a ninja, which Ino considered above what most Chunin knew, Naruto and her had been told to go to the training grounds to meet their new teachers. Lady Tsunade had said these teachers would be there to improve the skills Naruto and her had a talent for. In other words, Ino would learn more about gathering information, medical jutsu and interrogation, while Naruto apparently would learn something about natural chakra and sealing. What caused her loss of words, now that she stood in front of the ones that would be teaching them from now on, was how utterly unfairly she was being treated. Naruto would be taught by no other than Asuma-sensei and the legendary Sannin Jiraiya. Asuma said something about Naruto's affinity for wind chakra, and the Sannin, who was a pervert by the way, was acting around Naruto like some kind of uncle or grandfather. Not that Ino cared about that. Naruto needed and deserved the best teachers he could get if you asked her, and at least Asuma was a very good teacher for sure. The unfair thing about it was who would be teaching her. Next to Naruto's new senseis stood two women. One of them was Tsunade-sama's assistant Shizune. Ino knew that Shizune would be a good teacher, but compared to Asanin, well, it was a disappointment. The other woman had purple hair, was utterly crazy and dressed in a trench coat. Also, she had been the Junin leading the second part of the Chunin exam. This was what had robbed her of her ability to speak. Ino had expected to get someone like Ibiki to train her about gathering intel, and got someone she deemed worthy of being in a mental hospital. Being half aware of the fact that Naruto and his teachers had left to train somewhere else, she noticed that her teachers had sat down on the ground, and the crazy snake lady, Naruto's words not hers, was motioning Ino to sit down next to her. Deciding that there was no use in making a scene, Ino chose to learn as much as possible from her teachers. Maybe if she proved herself good enough, she could get Tsunade and Ibiki to train her at some point. So she sat down and faced the older women. Shizune smiled friendly, and the purple-haired female gave her a shining grin, not unlike Naruto's. "Now Missy, are you excited about your new teachers? My name is Anko. Bet you're happy to have me and Shizune over there teach you," Anko said to her in a happy voice. She seemed to be really excited to have someone learning from her. "IUHHM. Ino tried to answer but was cut short by Shizune. "Don't worry. We know you are disappointed. Anko is just playing with you." "I'm sorry," the blonde girl said. Way to go. She had just managed to insult her teachers. "Don't be. We understand you, Ino. Neither of us is a Sanin, while Naruto gets Jiraiya to teach him sealing. You will see that we're still pretty good teachers though. I have been taught by Tsunade-sama, and Anko is one of the most feared interrogators in Konoha." Shizune explained. "She is right, brat. It takes a lot more than a little disappointment to insult us," Anko said, and gave her some hard pats on the back. "Now that it's just us girls, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, and after that we tell you about us?" Okay. I am Ino Yamanaka. I like flowers, my friends, and gossip." Ino began. "I dislike people who don't stay true to their friends and the ones who don't try to use their talents. I want to become a great ninja so I can protect my friends and make my parents proud of me." Her teachers listened to her, and Anko smiled when she told her about how Ino liked to gossip. It would be helpful to start their little lesson. She threw a glance to Shizune, who seemed to understand right away. "You like to gossip? Really, Ino, isn't that a bad habit?" the black-haired woman asked. Ino thought about her answer for a moment before she gave it. "It depends. If you tell everybody secrets and start rumors or believe in everything that people tell you, it's a bad thing. It's not nice and nobody will trust you after a while. At the same time, it's a great way to get information, though you have to know what is the truth and what isn't. There are a lot of stories that can't be true. Still, I think that gossip isn't bad." Shizune gave her a nod, and the bright grin on Anko's face told Ino that her answer had been the right one. "Very good, Missy. Hokage-sama was right, you have the spirit," Anko said to her. "Also, you already know that you can't trust all information you get. That is the hardest part for most of us interrogators. So besides gossip, which mostly can only show you in which direction you have to search for information, by the way, how many other ways of getting important information do you know?" With jutsu like that of my family. Or through torture maybe," the blonde girl replied. Anko shook her head in amusement. Her eyes met Ino's, and they had a serious expression. "You're right. These are ways to get information. Both of them are very extreme though. There is a method that is a lot easier and stealthy," she said. "What is it? I've never heard of it." That made both Anko and Shizune laugh out. Ino gave them a confused look and pouted. "What? It's true. Oh, sure you have. You are doing it nearly all the time. Shizune smiled. She is right, Missy, though you aren't really aware of it. Enko said with a snicker and began to explain. What I was talking about is the easiest of all ways to get information. Talking with somebody. But, let me finish explaining, okay? Then you'll get all your open questions answered afterwards. First of all, talking or language has one simple purpose: to give someone else information. Be it about your lunch, your mood, a secret jutsu, or anything else. You talk all the time. Not just with your mouth, but also with your body. You are interpreting information others give you by watching them. Their body language, their facial expression, or the tone of their voice give you information about how to react around them. Most people don't realize how much they tell others all the time. Now that is where it gets interesting. While it's easy to lie with words, it's harder to lie with your body or your voice, because you aren't aware or have no control over a few reactions. If you're good as an interrogator, you don't need to use torture, at least not physical torture. It's enough to simply talk to your enemy and see how they react. A few questions here, a little threat there, and then when you get a reaction that's suspicious, you dig a little till you find something that's useful. It's really effective because nobody expects an interrogator to just have a nice talk with you. Also, a lot of people are nervous and let things slip without realizing it. Enko explained. What about when I don't have the subject as a hostage or prisoner? Ino asked as soon as she caught on to what she was told. That depends. If the subject knows you're the enemy, then talking won't help till you have your target secure in a place for interrogation. If the subject doesn't know what you're after, then a simple talk can change everything. A few innocent questions, a little smile, and all you have to do is to separate the useful things from the junk. If you use this technique and have a lot of training, you can read people like a book. It takes a lot of training, but in the end there is a lot to gain from it. The best bit is you can train that skill all the time with the people around you. Most won't notice, and if they do, all they will suspect is that you're noisy. So you will teach me how to read people and how to torture them if they don't want to be read. Ino asked the purple-haired female. Exactly. That and a few other secrets every kunoichi should know. Shizune over there will help you to understand the human body and mind better. After all, she is a very good doctor. I'm sure her medical jutsu can be used to gather intel and also will be helpful if your friends are wounded. Maybe you'll even learn a few things to improve your family jutsu if you learn how to understand the human brain and body more. So what do you think? Do you want us to train you, Missy? Enko grinned at Ino and held out her hand. The blonde girl took it without thought, nodded and gave the two women a smile. Of course I will, sensei. Please teach me everything you can so I can be a better ninja. For Konoha and my friends. That's what we will do, Missy. Now why don't we show you what I was talking about? The three of us will have a little talk and you try to figure out as much about us as you can, while we do the same. After that I'll give you advice on what you have to improve and some tips to read people without any jutsu. Enko said. Oh, and of course we will have a little spar afterwards. Shizune added. We have planned to see where you stand exactly. After today we will take turns in teaching you. One day you'll learn with me about medical jutsu, useful plants, poisons and those things, and the other Enko-san will teach you her special field. Since I have to admit that I'm the one who is less experienced in the field work of a ninja from a hidden village, you will learn that mostly from her. We expect only the best from you, Ino. If we get that, I promise to have Hokage-sama teach you at least a little. Thank you, sensei. I understand. I will do my best and won't disappoint you. Ino said. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, why don't you tell us about your relationship with the brat? Is he your boyfriend? Enko asked with a devious grin. What? No. Ino sputtered. Are you crazy? Me and Uzumaki. We're just friends, nothing more. But I know from Hogake-sama that you live in his place and the two of you were sitting pretty close when we arrived here with the others today. Shizune pressed. She knew why Anko had chosen that topic. I mean that's right, but really there is nothing. We weren't even real friends before he found me. Ino told her senseis. We have grown pretty close since he took me in, you know. Why did he offer you to live with him, if you weren't friends back then, huh? Anko asked. I think Naruto has a different view on things like friendship. He was really nice, but didn't want a thing from me in return. So he is just a friend and you have grown close to him while living with him, right? And you have no intentions to change your relationship? Came the question from Shizune. The reaction Ino gave now was surprising. She said nothing, as if she wasn't sure what to say. Anko saw how she grew a little more tense and started to rub her wrist with the other hand. We're good friends, sensei. He told me a lot of things and is real nice, but I don't think there is more. So you're not sure? Anko asked, a little too curious. She wanted to know more about this. At first she had chosen the topic just to rile her pupil up. To make Ino nervous or angry so she wouldn't notice the more subtle questions, but now Anko's inner gossip girl, even if she did hide that side from everyone, wanted to be fed. Naruto is a good guy the first suppose. Just not, boyfriend material. Ino said and started to rub her wrist a little more. I don't think I have to give it more thought to be honest. We're friends, he likes Sakura and even if he didn't there are a lot of girls that would be a better match for him. Like? Shizune asked. None of your business sensei. Ino yelled suddenly angry. Ask something else. I'm not here to talk about Naruto. Well then, what do you think about the fact that the laziest guy in this village was made Chunin not too long ago, while the Uchiha? Anko asked. There was something about the Naruto topic, but first this wasn't an interrogation and second it made Ino uncomfortable because the girl didn't have the answers herself. This was a hint on Ino's personality and that she knew how to alter or hide it. She could talk with Shizune about that later. Ino's pose changed drastically. Her shoulders became straight, her eyes met Anko's and her voice was strong as she spoke. Sasuke is a good ninja, but he isn't the best just because he is an Uchiha. Shikamaru had a good match. He has shown how he can beat an enemy that was clearly stronger than him. I think he gave up because he knew something would happen, to save some chakra for later. I'm not sure about it and the lazy bum didn't tell me shit when I asked, but he is really smart. He deserves to be Chunin. At least he wasn't late for his match. Ino defended her friend. The lazy idiot wouldn't care about it, but no one talked bad about her close people's achievements. Well, good you see that the Uchiha's looks and name aren't everything. Though it is surprising to hear you talking about Sasuke-kun in that way. Aren't you one of his biggest fangirls? Was another slight question to learn more from Anko. Ino gave a sigh and began to explain. A little time later she started to ask questions herself. She tried to learn everything she could from her teachers but their answers, unlike her own, just held nothing more than just the obvious meaning of the words. Also Ino found it hard to read their body language. When Anko and Shizune explained to her what they had read from her she was shocked. They told her about what she had felt, some of her exact thoughts she had when she had given the answers and what they had concluded about her from the context. While they had gotten a pile of info about her she had nothing really important. Anko-sensei gave her a lot of tips, which were really helpful and Ino promised herself she would improve. After the questioning came the spar. Ino against both of her teachers. No reason to say she had no real chance. She gave it her all anyway and even managed to hit Anko with one of Shizune's poison Senbon. In the end she lost, as expected, but her teachers were proud of her skill nonetheless. Shizune told her when and where she had to meet her the next day at the hospital and left. Anko on the other hand stayed with her, one hand resting on Ino's shoulder. You know, Missy, for the first brat I have to teach, you're all I could have asked for, she told the blonde girl, as she stood behind her. Thank you, sensei, Ino replied. Still, I think you shouldn't act so much. Don't be surprised. I know a mask if I see it. You're unsure as hell about yourself. You're afraid what you are isn't enough. I know your behavior, because I acted like you when I learned under one of my teachers and when I came back to Konoha. You do. Yes. Now please do us all and yourself a favor. Be yourself, no matter what others think. Your lazy friend, the chubby one, and even the blonde annoying brat are all different from what is expected, but they are what they are. Anko told her. Save the mind games for your enemies, Ino, not your friends. It's bad for you if you don't trust anybody to like you how you are. But, Ino started. This woman had figured her out. Ino was shocked and felt good about it at the same time. Her sensei was someone who seemed to understand in a way nobody could. Not Asuma, Shikamaru, her dad, or Naruto. No buts. Be yourself, Missy. Do not care about what others think. Do what you want and what you think is the right thing. Not what others tell you is. The ones who like you anyway won't mind. Trust me. Anko sensei's lecture came to an end. Ino looked at the strange women before her. She was nothing like people expect a teacher to be, but still she had proven she was a good one. Ino wanted to be like her, to be able to be how she wanted to be and still able to prove her worth. You're right, sensei. Thanks for your advice. Anytime, girly. Now come, I'll show you the wonderful gift that is called dango. My treat, just this once. And with that, Ino followed her sensei to a dango shop, where the two of them sat, ate mostly Anko, and talked about ways to get information. This time just the theory without any practical example. The blonde girl enjoyed it immensely, because Anko sensei was more of a big sister than a teacher. Ino had always wanted a sister. She and her mom, while they were close, had way too different interests in life. They could agree on flowers and a few other things, but her mom never wanted to see things Ino's way. Anko sensei did. She didn't agree to everything, but if that was the case, she tried to show Ino why she thought differently. The thing about it was that she took Ino seriously. Really seriously. There was no talking from Anko that implied she was above Ino. She didn't show anyone that she was better than Ino by talking down to her, but took her seriously, and if the blonde girl needed to be put in her place, Anko just did it and proved her wrong. After the two of them parted ways, Ino had a wonderful evening and high hopes that Shizune would be just as much of a role model that Anko sensei had proven to be. Deciding it was time to go home, she started to head for Naruto's place. When she turned into the street his apartment was on, she saw that he was already home as she noticed the lights were turned on. As she opened the door, she found that it was very quiet inside. First she thought that Naruto had just fallen asleep and forgot to turn out the lights, but then she found him in the kitchen. He was reading a book. That itself wasn't an uncommon sight for Ino, since the boy had done this quite a lot the last few weeks. The interesting thing about it was that he seemed really interested, like when he was learning a new jutsu. He didn't even notice that she was in the room, watching him. The expression on his face made her believe that he was reading the recipe for the best ramen ever made. Strangely, it made Ino smile to see him with something that could make him focus that much on something he normally didn't like. He had a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth, which she found immensely adorable. Hey Whiskers. How was your training? She asked him. His head jerked up to look at her. So he really hadn't noticed her till now. Oh hey Ino. How long were you standing there? Oh, not that long. In fact, I just came in, she said. Now care to answer my question? It was great. Asuma showed me something about wind chakra and kanai. I didn't quite get it at first, but I'm getting better. Oh, and the old pervert said he would train me in fuinjutsu. Something about how the Uzumaki clan had a thing for that and how I should learn more about it. He gave me these books and a jutsu diary of a girl of my clan. Surprisingly, I found it very easy to understand the things in the books, even though Asuma had told me that fuinjutsu was very hard to learn. He beamed at her. She could see how happy and proud he was to accomplish something others said was hard to learn. Wow, that sounds great. And how about the diary? Did you read that too? She asked him. Well, at first I didn't want to, but Ero Sennin said it would be okay since the girl would probably approve if she knew who was reading the book. Apparently I and the girl had a lot in common. The diary goes on about the girl's work with fuinjutsu from the age of 15 to 20, and it has a lot of useful advice till now. I think she wrote it in case she had kids so that they could learn easier or something, because the first pages were addressed to her son. So Jiraiya-sama gave it to you to help you? Yes. This girl, Kushina was her name, really had a few cool tricks. I definitely have to learn them. The only strange thing was that Ero Sennin said I should tell him if I figured out why he gave the book to me. I mean, isn't it obvious? Backquote. He wanted me to learn fuinjutsu. Ino smiled at him. She knew there had to be more behind this, but for now she didn't want to ruin Naruto's mood. Jiraiya had another reason for giving Naruto that book and telling him about his clan, but she was sure he would tell Naruto as soon as the right time came. She may not understand it all, but the Sannin must have had his reasons. Who was she to ask for those? So Ino, how was your day? Are you happy with your teachers? Naruto asked as he put a piece of paper between the pages of the diary and waited for her to tell about her day. Well, you see, at first Ino began. It would take a long time till the both of them got into their beds tonight, as both wanted to tell the other how their day went. In the end, they were happy they had someone to speak with and to listen to. Each of them fell asleep with a smile on their face. Ino collapsed on her knees. Her breathing was heavy and all of her body ached. She tried to get up and search cover behind a tree, but it was already too late. 3 kunai hit the ground right next to the exhausted girl. Her enemy had caught up to her and now she had to fight. A figure appeared out of the tree and directed a kick right at Ino's face only to stop inches before it. And again you're dead. I expect more from you, Missy. Anko-sensei scolded. Her face was grim and her eyes showed no mercy. Really, girl, you can do way better and I only expect to get your best. Now get up and start running your laps. Ino did as Anko said, but after a few seconds of running she fell to her knees again and didn't move any further. A moment later Anko was beside her, yelling how the blonde girl should get up again. At first Ino tried, but then she gave in to the pain of her body. I can't, was all Ino said. She was at her limit, or at least that's what she thought. It was hard enough to breath, running was out of question right now. Sadly, her sensei thought differently about that. You can and you will, Missy. There is no place for slacking of when you are on a mission. That means as long as you train with me there won't be any slacking either. The blonde girl mumbled something, hoping that Anko-sensei wouldn't catch on what she said, but since her sensei was a skilled ninja she did hear it. Ino knew it because of the look she received from Anko. It hurt her more than all the cuts and bruises over her body because it was disappointment. Her sensei was disappointed with her, even thought Ino had given her best. So you say that's your limit? You want just a little break, yes? The purple-haired woman asked her pupil. Very well. Then you'll get a task that isn't as hard as what we've done before, even though I know you could go on. She took a scroll from her coat and tossed it before Ino. The girl pick at the scroll up asked cast a questioning look to her sensei and then to the scroll. Anko told her to open the scroll and so Ino did as she was told. Inside a mission description about an observation mission. It wasn't official, Ino could tell because Asuma had once given a similar scroll to her old team. Those were given to young ninjas as a way to get them used to reading official mission scroll without any fault. They all contained a few D-rank missions, because those were perfect to train a young team before they got into the real world of being a ninja. Also, it saved the sensei a lot of time. He or she just had to give the genins the scroll and didn't have to waste all the time explaining how many D ranks the team had to do and what they consisted of. This one, however, was custom made by her current sensei. Ino read what Anko sensei wanted her to do. She had to observe a special target for a few hours without getting caught by its two guards. The reason for this mission was obvious, since it would train Ino's stealth skills and at the same time would give her the chance to take a little break. It would still be hard to accomplish the mission because of the guards, but it was more of a task for her mind than for her body. You have as much time as described in the scroll to get as much information about the target as you can. I'll find you after your time is up. If what you found out is good enough to please me, I'll give you a last task and we call it a day. If you can't answer my questions at that point, we will train till you really can't move anymore. And now go. Ino got up and headed to the area where the scroll said that her target would stay. She didn't see the smirk that suddenly appeared on Anko's face, and neither did she notice the small snake that followed her. At first it was hard for her to walk because of her aching muscles, but after a few minutes of walking she felt like she could use a faster pace. Soon she was jumping through the trees again, her pain and exhaustion washed away by the excitement of her mission. She had to avoid getting caught by two Junin guards, maybe even more skilled. If she succeeded, she could make up for disappointing Anko. After all, the woman was something like her new role model, though the rumors about her sensei were quite naughty to describe. Not that she believed what people told her, but for now she would try to become a ninja like Anko sensei, and if the woman gave her a few other tips about her social life she wouldn't refuse them, although she wouldn't copy Anko. It was never useful to copy people no matter what, and Ino already had a small reputation herself, false as it was. Soon she reached the place where her target was training. Hiding in the trees, Ino started to observe. She didn't know exactly why she had to watch Naruto train, besides working on her stealth skills, but what she saw now was an impressive view. Before her eyes were around 50 Narutos all gathered in different groups. Of course those were clones. A few doing chakra exercises, other practicing jutsu, some were meditating while the rest was dispelling genjutsu of some kind. Only one of them, the one Ino thought of as the original, was doing taijutsu with Asuma sensei and Jiraiya-sama. He had cuts and bruises all over him, his shirt was torn at several places and his jacket lay discarded on the ground. The blonde girl saw her roommate attack the two teachers again and again, only to fail at landing a strike on them. She heard Asuma berating him about his faulty technique and how to do it right. She saw his frustration in his face and the way his body moved, but she never saw Naruto giving up. And he was doing good at taijutsu if you compared that to the skills his clones showed in dispelling genjutsu. Maybe Anko sensei really wasn't demanding too much from her. Ino thought about how she would do if she had to take Naruto's exercise for a few minutes. Training with only two clones would leave her without any chakra left to fight, let alone doing the exercises Naruto was undergoing right now.